factor there? Derek?
Yes.
So you're calling your cell phone?
Yeah, they send an email. So that used to not be a feature. That is a feature that they instilled, I would say, last year, some point last year. So this is what the main screen looks like, or kind of like the home screen for it. So they have 3 different options. Excuse me. Where you can do, you can provide support. So you can literally create like an on-demand like session here. And so what I would do in the event that maybe it may be a client that I haven't dealt with yet, or there's not a Screen Connect small client on there already, I would just provide them this link, this direct link right here, and it will link them. It will send them a URL, link them to this, to a page that would ask them to enter in an access code. They enter this in. It would download a client, and from that point, I would then be able to start the session with them. So that's the support part. They do have this meeting option. I don't really use it that much.
Yeah, but we move on. That one-time session.
Yes.
When you're done, it uninstalls itself?
No.
It stops working?
No, it does not uninstall itself.
It stays there?
It stays there, yeah.
And can the client turn it on and turn it off?
They can turn it off services.
And then you can call them and say, please turn it on.
Exactly. Yep.
However, it's useful.
Yeah, it's useful. So for clients, we've been pretty blessed and lucky to have clients where we've had on retainer and have built the relationship with them. I think that's the most important part with doing business is the relationship. So we let them know that, hey, this is going to be here, but in the event that you may need, let's say on-demand IT services, we can just provide that service right there for you. We don't have to go through the steps. As long as that expectation is set, they have no issues at all.
So do you have a policy of having the client turned off regularly, and then you have to call them and say turn it on, or do most of your clients leave it on all the time?
Most of my clients leave them on, yes.
So our company has a different policy. So with most of our clients, except for, it's ironic, but for corporate clients, it's less of an issue.
Yeah.
But for home clients, people do all kinds of stuff on their computer.
Yeah.
And it's actually ironically less about them trusting us. Oh,
can you stand up in the front so you can be seen?
Sure. It's less about them trusting us and more about us not wanting the exposure.
Yeah.
So if something interesting happens, you have kind of the back of your mind, well, Adam, has access to my computer 24/7.
Yeah.
So our policy in general is to have the client turned off, teach the client how to turn it on.
Yeah.
Except for the clients who want to use it themselves, or for usually for company clients, they want you to be able to go in and out.
Exactly. Yeah. We applied that policy to both corporate and to our residential.
See, my clients are on all the time, but I make it clear, if I have to get into your computer, I will call you first.
Bingo.
And make sure it's okay.
Exactly.
And the only time I go in is if I have work to do. I don't do it to query and spy on them.
Exactly. And that's the thing, as long as the expectation is set with the client, right? Whether it be verbal communication or it be in written documentation, as long as they know there's no issue. So so that's the support portion of it. And then here's the access part of it. So you'll see here, I've kind of segmented it out a little bit. So you'll see.
Just a financial question.
Yes.
How many licenses, how many thingies do you have to pay for? How does it work?
So you have, I believe it's called 10 seats, I believe, if I can remember. So we have the biggest package that's available. What's gonna provide. So I believe it's like $55 a month, if I can recall.
When you say 10 seats, that's 10 technicians?
Yes.
So you got 10 technicians and an unlimited number of customers?
Yes.
For $55 a month, so that's like $700 a year.
Yeah.
That's a really good deal.
Better than log me in.
Yep.
That wouldn't be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you cannot have more than 10 technicians pretty much, doing, accessing or have remote sessions simultaneously. More
That's
than
still
10.
extraordinarily better than any of the other products on the market, I think.
Yeah, so it's awesome. So you see here, I got like my residential clients here.
If you wanted to demo this,
Mhm.
I have a computer you could send the client to, I think.
Yeah, I'd love to get up there and,
Or if you want to show us.
because they're
You wanna show
also,
us- can you have access to your machine?
I think one of my machines is in my office is on.
Well, I can show you. I can show you really quickly.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah.
So here's my residential, and here's one of my small business clients here. So you see some of the workstations, and those. I think it's kind of congested, so I can't really see everything. But can I get this Zoom? Oh, it's at 100. Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. So here, I just log into the DC here and kind of show you. So you see joining session, and then it's gonna ask me to, is it okay, Adam, if I?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an old computer. So
Okay.
It may actually be grumpy.
Okay.
You may have trouble.
All right, let's see.
But actually, no, the computer you're on, you're
Yes.
remoted into my Windows 7 computer. Shouldn't have a problem.
Okay, all right.
Layers and layers of road exit.
Oh my God.
And since they restructured the interface, they've added features, which I found awesome.
Yeah, okay.
For example, I can send a link to a client now instead of having to carry the client out and then install it, or email it and then try to
Right.
get them to install
Right. Let's see.
it. And as I said, the use of the screen real estate is a lot easier than it used to be. It's much more efficient, much easier to use.
Are you trying to go into downloads?
Yeah.
There's a blue arrow at the top right.
So,
Yeah, right there. It should be there.
completed. Okay, good. All right, so now that it's completed, now if I try to launch it again,
But you have to run it.
yeah, I should be able to open it now. Now that it's, it's actually.
You see, what you need to do is go up in Firefox, go up and double click on the downward arrow,
Yeah,
and then open that up.
open up, yeah, you're right.
And once I get up there, I can show you some additional features in the dashboard.
So the background to this, while this is doing this is our admin. We've got an our admin connection going to this. So for your article, you might want to mention our admin, which is an extraordinarily powerful remote access program used by system administrators. And you folks might want to look very carefully at it. For an in-house operation, we use it constantly. And it's much less expensive over the long haul because it's a one-time license fee. But it takes setup. You have to use fixed IP addresses, and you have to set up the router to do port forwarding. Once you've done that, it's really fantastic.
Well, and it's Windows only.
And it's Windows only.
Okay. Pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, so
We use the server environment. We use the VJs.
Admin.
Yeah.
nice. All right, so here's what the control looks like here. And here's some of the features at the top.
So we're now looking at your server, that Windows server.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And so here's some of the features here.
Tell us something.
I can remember. So yeah, so you can like send control delete sometime. Like say if the the keys are not won't allow you to. It gives you some multifaceted functions at the top.
Can you tell us your favorites, the ones you use the most?
The one I use the most probably control delete.
Yeah.
Probably control delete is probably the most. Sometimes,
Feel free if you want to.
yeah, because sometimes like if I try to wake it up, it will get in this like weird funky state. So it's just better to kind of use some of the features up here, yeah.
And so,
And
You can
then,
reboot it into safe mode, huh?
yeah, and, also the chat option up here, like if I'm, say if I, in doing a remote session with a client of mine and I'm not with them, you know, say, over the phone, you can literally chat with them this way. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's, this is their AD. I was doing some terminations recently, so, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's like I said, I've used TeamViewer, I've used LogMeIn.
Garrett, let me ask you
Go on.
a couple more questions.
Of course.
And this advanced by way of comparison with the other products.
Of course.
So one of our goals is we have a substantial number of customers who want their own cluster. So they want to be able to go log in, see the machines in their company, and have control over them.
Okay.
Does ConnectWise have that option?
To be able to log in.
So it's basically a sub-account or a delegated account. So I can say to you, Garrett, you might say to me, Adam, I have 12 computers.
Right.
I want remote access for my staff, to all of them, and I want control, not you.
Right.
I don't want you to have them all. You can have them in your central
Right.
login, but I want my own login account. So both LogMeIn and Remote PC does this, where you can create an account for a client.
Right.
They then you can then delegate computers to that account. So you can say this computer and this computer can be controlled by this person.
Right.
I'll demo that later.
Yeah, pretty much have the same.
Can you do that?
Yes, so you can create like technicians, right?
So it would have to be a technician.
Yeah,
You
it would have to
treat
be
the
a technician,
customer
but
like
you
a
can,
technician.
exactly, but you can manage their.
And you can prohibit them from going to certain computers and allow them to.
Yes.
Okay, so you have to use your 10 allotment of 10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you have to use your allotment of 10, yes. If I did remember here, let me check out here.
Yeah, Adam, I use that in the log again.
Yeah, that feature, yeah, really good.
So there, let me see.
That's how I spread my costs.
Yes, yes.
Well, that's another question. Do you charge for that or do you not? Yes.
Yeah, that's funny for you, Garrett. You just pay, right? You just pay them yourself. You don't charge clients separately for this?
No, I just pay. It's just, I mean, just for, I looked at it as, okay, if I pay for 10 seats, but for technicians, technically, but I have unlimited seats, I mean, it's.
How do you charge?
How do you charge, how do you, you know,
Calculate
that and, you know, price that to your client, like, okay, I'm gonna charge you, like, it's hard.
Well, we do it. So
Okay.
I'll tell you what we do.
Maybe if it was to per account, maybe, or per seat.
So we charge $20 per license.
Okay,
So we turn to our customers and say, we're going to put this machine on remote access. It'll cost you $20 a year. And then we pool the money and then we use that to pay the license fee. And people have no problem with it.
Yeah.
But people have problems when LogMeIn doubled their prices and I'd have to charge $40. And I just said,
yeah, people were like, can't do it.
now what I do, I don't charge for the remote access.
Okay,
However, if I only have to go in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't care. It's not worth my time to bill for 5 or 10 minutes. And my clients tend to be kind of price conscious. However, if it's more than 15, 20 minutes or so, I charge.
but you're not charging for the remote access.
No.
You're charging for your fee. Your
I'm
regular
charging
fee.
my hourly
And you
rate.
built it in like you have, Garrett. You
Yeah.
built it into your fee.
yeah.
Because it's convenient. I don't necessarily have to go out there.
Yeah.
I'm not tying up their computers while I'm out there.
Right,
I'm not spending my time. I'm not charging expenses.
yeah.
If you go over 15 minutes, you charge them by the hour?
Yeah.
So it's a minimum of an hour once you
Yeah.
reach 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but you see, when it comes to that, the personality of the client as well as your own policies come into play. I had a client once argue with me that I should charge less for remote access than for in-person work. And my response was, you're getting Martin on the weekend. I should charge you more. So she does.
And you're not charging expenses, you're not charging portal to portal,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it tends to be less time tying them up too.
True. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. Now it's pretty much the same approach. Depending on the client, it's, per hour fee, you can hide things. It's great. I love it. I love it. Like,
And then up there,
Why don't you join Garrett? I have a couple questions for both of you.
You want to sign in? To
yeah, I'll sign into my,
Okay.
my
Why
dashboard.
don't you leave this open and then, because we
All right.
can go back and forth a little bit. I do want to ask about stability for both of you. So when you're connected, have you been disconnected unexpectedly at any time?
Never.
Never. Not
Never.
unless- Not unless it was like something on their end, but never, no, never the product or service that's provided. That was-
For 10 technicians, you're paying out $700 a year.
What's that? I'm sorry.
For 10 technicians, you're paying about $700 a year.
No, it's
What was it?
55 a month. So, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
All right, now, I can build and install. I don't necessarily have to log in if I don't want to.
Actually,
I
that's,
can just build the installer, save the file.
actually, that's $660 a year.
Yeah, when you bring it, yeah.
And what I found is, building the installer, the consultant that I inherited this from told me, don't do an EXE. He said, some machines can get cranky about doing EXEs. Do the Windows installer MSI, which I found works almost very well.
Some email systems will block EXEs too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, this is new here, send link, copy URL, download.
So Garrett, you were using the send link, right? To send the installer?
Yeah, but I have those same options. Yeah, I can send the link, I can copy the URL, or I can just download it.
I'm gonna log in.
Now, is this software on one of your servers, your PCs, or is it in the
No,
cloud?
it's in the cloud
It's in the
on
cloud, yep.
one of their servers.
Yep,
I can see your portals are different, I guess.
yeah, exactly.
It's on your own portal.
Yep.
But it's the company, if I understand, it's the company portal. It's not like they don't have their own anything. It's
Yeah.
going out to the company website, logging in with their account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, these are some of my clients. Let's see, oh, no, my machines aren't up.
So you can tell that by the color of the line?
Yeah, if it's all grayed out, that means it's asleep,
Right,
or
now-
it's just off.
If my machine was up, see where I'm moving the cursor around? That gives me a thumbnail picture of the desktop and also gives me the configuration for that machine, everything on that machine.
Yep.
Which is useful. Maybe I want to check something. I don't want to log in. I don't have to deal with the machine, but if there's some piece of information I need on the configuration.
Yep.
Up here is a bunch of tools.
Mhm.
Messaging, record, why I was there, sort of like help desk ticket management. Chat tools, etc. Download.
Command prompt. So
Command prompt.
You can send commands through that. You can shut it down, restart it, you pretty much do everything that you do if you are manually on the computer.
How does the copying and paste work when you're at the computer?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. I had a situation with a client. She called me up. She was going on a business trip. And she says, I need to print my boarding pass. I'm online. Try to print it. The only thing that came out of the browser view was the barcode. She wanted the whole boarding pass. So, okay, I remote in. I take a look at it. I try to print it out of the browser. Got the same thing. So what I did was, I used my screen capture software, grabbed the image from the browser, saved it to my machine, emailed it back to her, opened up the email, opened up the attachment, and then printed that.
Nice.
She was happy, she was ecstatic.
It's so fun what you can improvise.
But the key was that you're able, if you copy from the machine you're remoting from,
Mhm.
if you go into the remote controlled machine and you copy something.
Right.
If you go to the remote controlled machine and you copy something.
Right.
It's immediately in the clipboard?
Yes.
Yes.
Both,
Yes.
both.
In both directions?
Both
Yes,
directions.
that's how I was able to save the image from her browser, because it copied to the clipboard.
Part of the process I've been going through as I've been thinking about what do I use logging in for, what would I want in an alternative service? Because it's grown on me and I've used more and more of the features. And I finally made a list of like, I didn't have realized it, but I have a list of almost 15, 20 features that are each, you don't think of, like, I had to go copy and paste them right this second. I had to put that on the list. Multiple monitors, multiple sessions on my end for clients with multiple computers. I could use a client that I raised them up the stairs on his other machine.
Right.
Windows and Macintosh. The ability to remotely either restart the computer or just restart the service.
Right.
Because logging gets stuck sometimes.
Right.
That's been my experience. But if I can just restart the service and then restart the computer, that's like amazing. So I recommend if you're looking for a service, think long and hard about the things you want to do or have done, especially for changing services, because it's a different mix of features the moment you change company.
Very true. Very true.
And does this product have auditing built in, so you know like which technician logged into the computer and what time?
A reporting feature?
I've never, because I'm the only one, so I've never dug into that.
Check out and see if there's a reporting feature. Is there?
It's
I like, one thing I find really useful for is, I bill differently than you guys do. So I bill by the quarter, we bill by the quarter of an hour. And so keeping accurate time records is an important part of my job. And sometimes I blow it. I'm tired, I forget to put the closing time. But I go into LogMeIn or whatever system I'm using and there's an audit trail that tells.
Oh,
when I was logged in.
there is in this.
Okay, that's what we were asking.
Yeah, especially logging.
And also, you'll notice here, this is the last view on my computer. And it tells me when when the computer was last on.
Where is that?
Right. You see
Right
where it
on the
says
right side.
Last updated.
You can walk right up and point. Yeah.
Right here. So, that's,
Screenshot or?
there's the taskbar, it's Windows Explorer, and last updated, in other words, it was last on, the computer was last on 19 hours and 13 minutes ago, which was last night.
Thank you both very much for sharing.
Yeah.
This seems like a really good program, and the price is fabulous.
Yeah.
What?
I should
You have
add
another
one
comment?
thing. The consultant I used this server with, the connection with, some of his clients, they use it to remote into a machine to do their work. So it gives them different levels of privilege.
What kind of different privileges can you offer?
Look only, full administrative access.
Okay.
When I first got it, he forgot to give me administrative access. I'm trying to do things and couldn't do anything.
So along those lines, does this system allow two technicians to look at the screen at the same time? Can you have two people looking at the same remote, doing the same remote
I
at the
don't
same time?
think so. I don't think so.
So I do want to make a plug for Aardman, which is the only product I found that does this.
Yeah.
So we use Aardman as a teaching tool. So we're able to have multiple students looking in on the same computer.
I don't think there is.
So you know, like sometimes when you need to put in credentials, your screen will get blanked out.
Mhm.
Will this bypass that splash out of the screen?
Like if it's asking for like admin credentials, no, it'll just pop right up.
Yeah. And I've never had that issue. I log into a computer
Yep.
and the client has the admin credentials. It recognizes me immediately.
Glenn had a comment.
Yeah, I'd say if you're looking for multiple people going into a screen, then I like to go to meeting
Go to meeting.
for that. And-
Home by log me in, I think.
Yeah. It is, but the prices are a lot less.
Okay,
I mean,
but
significant.
go to meeting allows multiple people to see the screen.
you can see a screen and you can designate, who is the person in charge or whatever.
But you can only have one person in charge, right? Like only one person.
Well, you
can
can't,
use it,
you
so
can't be,
control it.
well, again, the person that owns the machine can type, and you can designate someone else as well.
Okay.
And both people can type. So it can get confusing if you're both trying to
If you
type
both
at
type,
the
right.
same time, but not everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can change on the fly, well, instead of looking at your machine, oh, come look at my machine now. And so you can keep changing.
That sounds
No.
good. How much does it cost, Glenn? Ballpark.
The lowest end, I think, the 10-seat, I think it's like $225 a year. It's very cheap, whatever. And then there's, you have 25 seats.
Right.
Right.
But as a teaching tool, it sounds like a good.
Well, it's a good for a remote access tool. Like if I have to take over someone's machine and I had to configure it, I mean, and again, it's all, you log into a browser, basically I can send an email,
Right.
or I can tell them, join GoToMeeting.com, and put in this code and connect. So
But would it give
there's
you-
2 ways of connecting.
Is GoToMeeting, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And would it give you the option, say if you need to lock down and get to the Windows login screen, could you get to that? Do you have that access, or does it kind of blink out if you happen to lock the computer? Because
It's called the UAC.
yeah, right.
When you go into some privileged part of the computer, you get that gray
Yeah,
thing with the,
Like, does it blank
allow
out for
access
you?
or not.
I know some remote tools don't give you that capability. I know
Well, if they're VNC based, they often choke at that moment.
yeah.
It's not getting totally kicked off.
But this has saved my life so many times, and I had a client that forgot his administrative password. As I give all my clients, when I set up their computer, I set up a standard user account, and I set up an administrative account for them in addition to my administrative account. I don't give my administrative account password to anybody. And I had a client argue with me about it. No, you have your administrative account, please use that. I can't give you mine. And he forgot his password. So he calls me up, what do I do? Well, he's trying to install software, he's frantic, what do I do? So I remoted into his machine, and I reset his administrative password, and he went forth and happily computing. And another client, he was using his wife's machine, and he had taken the external hard drive that had all his data from his machine. That's why I set up the computer with an external SSD in case something wrong with the computer. Another standard policy, always use a second hard drive to hold data, not on the C drive, in case the C drive trashes and it takes everything with it. So the second drive has the data, pull it, plug it into another machine, and you're up and running again. So he plugged it into his wife's machine. Where's my data? What did you do? So I sent him the client to his wife's machine. He picked it up, installed it. I then remoted in, found out he had moved the entire 47 gig data structure under another folder. Once I pulled it back and showed him where it was and your data is there, he was happy.
So, thank you. Glenn, just one more question about GoToMeeting. Is GoToMeeting and JoinMe the same product? Are they two different? JoinMe, Join.me?
Join.me is another logging in product,
But they're
but
separate.
it's separate.
So I just wanted to add, I know that a lot of us have customers now who have phones and they have issues with their phones. And the only success I've had is with Join.me to look at their phone. Yeah, it doesn't work with iPhones, but it works with Android. So it was very helpful. I had a customer with very serious phone problems, and it was a nuisance. It wasn't easy to use, but it was helpful.
Now, one thing I did notice when they restructured the
I'm not gonna
interface,
pay attention to you.
I guess not.
Wait, I'm sorry. Steve, did you want to say something?
Yeah, you're off camera when you're there.
Directing.
You're off camera.
Oh, when I'm here, thank you. for reminding me.
one thing I did notice when they restructured the interface, several times it asked you, do you want to install this software? And I didn't know they restructured the interface, and I called up my consultant colleague, what's going on? Oh, they restructured the interface, just tell it yes, accept the software. Since then, it really hasn't bothered me.
Thank you both very much. I'm sure.
I had a comment about delegating access.
Yes.
In all the years I've been doing this, I've never had anybody, I've rarely ever had anybody who's interested in technology per se. But I had 2 clients for whom setting them up for them to use their remote in Microsoft, yeah, delegated from my commercial account, it was a godsend. One was a client who said, oh yeah, I'm buying another laptop. Could you just copy, which I'm going to use as well as the first laptop. Could you just copy everything from the first one to the second one? And when I stopped cringing at the nightmare that would create in terms of which document is on which machine, which she modified when, I suggested this to her instead, and she loved it. And it saved a nightmare of,
So I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying, Marty. You're saying that you, instead of having 2 machines,
no, she has 2 machines.
but instead of using 2 machines, that's 2 machines.
And
Use one as a remote.
Right, that way they can each have their own, that way the main machine would have all the data,
Yes.
not be cloned and then slowly diverging and creating a synchronization.
So I want to underscore this. My own opinion is that, so I just want to emphasize this. This is a technique that I strongly recommend for people, which is to have a good solid machine in your office that is accessible remotely. And then when you're outside your office, have something really cheap, breakable, and completely secure. So one of the things I want to emphasize is that there was a doctor from Mass General who left his laptop on the subway. And it cost Mass General $2 million because they charge you for each number that's breached. You're fined for each number. Yeah, in this case, it was like all of his medical, it was a nightmare. But the point is, if you have a cheap laptop and you have it out on the road and you're connecting through one of these remote access programs and you use a decent password, you can throw your laptop onto the subway and give it to somebody and you'll be fine. There's no security breach at all. You don't have to report it. You're not carrying data with you. And in general, when people talk to me about, what kind of laptop should I get? I say, you should get a $100 laptop on eBay and put a really good desktop in your office and use it remotely. And now I can say that with more of a straight face. I mean, I want to say it's not entirely a straight face. As you noticed tonight, for people who were here early, I connected to the MassBay unsecured network to use our admin, which is the system I was preparing the demo with. And I could not connect. And if Marty hadn't rescued me with his MiFi, I would have been in trouble. So unfortunately, unless you have your own wireless connection that you're carrying around, like Marty's doing, you sometimes have to depend on the kindness of strangers. You're in an airport. For what it's worth, this is the first time I've had trouble connecting with our admin on the network. I don't know what MassBay is doing. It's very unusual. Usually it works just fine.
Isn't this vacation period?
I wonder if they've turned
They took something off or something crashed or whatever.
But you have to,
Yeah.
but you have to be
Bother with it.
if you're going to use this solution, you have to be aware it does have this limitation. But this limitation is smaller and smaller as wireless has become and networking has become more and more prevalent. It's very hard now to be in a place where you don't have some kind of networking.
I had a similar situation.
So hold on, Teresa, I'm going to hold up on this because I want to just launch in. We're here. So what I wanted to do, because this is a computer networking group, not a therapy group, I didn't want to impose too much my emotional life on you, but I'm going to impose it a little bit. I do believe that that emotions are an important part of being a good computer person. And so I want to share this logged in experience with you from a personal standpoint. So as many of you know, I've been doing this computer work not nearly as long as Arthur. I'm a spring chicken, but I've been doing it long enough where I've had developed very strong feelings about the tools that I use. And I found that remote access, which was something I was very hesitant to use early on. In the early days of remote access, I was uncomfortable with it. Partly technically it was bad, and partly because I wanted to see the customer. I wanted to be with the customer. And what I found is that a blend is what's really important. It's very bad to get too dependent on remote access. My joke about it is you can't smell the burning power supply. But it's also just in general, you'd be surprised how often being there creates a better bond with your customer. You understand what's going on better. You're less likely to do something dumb. On the other hand, it is truly wonderful, as Teresa was pointing out, a customer calls and there's something silly going on. and you log in and you fix it in 5 minutes, and you're a hero and everything's wonderful. There's no question that this is a life-giving technology.
Or there's a blizzard. I have a client around the corner, but we were in the middle of a blizzard. That's how we won't have power.
Yeah.
So there are other circumstances too.
And we have corporate customers who want to be able to work at home in a blizzard. We're in Boston, we're tough weather, being able to do that. So when we started using, that's an Airbnb. When we started using LogMeIn, I started developing it and discovered that customers really liked it. They found it really helpful. We found the service, which was initially free, to be lovely, it was reliable. And then as LogMeIn has done this thing with their prices, the thing that I find most disturbing about this is it feels to me, and this is where the emotional part is, this feels disrespectful. So I wouldn't turn to one of my customers and say, you know what, I happen to know you're very dependent on me. I've been your computer consultant for 20 years. I'm doubling my prices this year. You don't mind, do you? And that's essentially what LogMeIn is doing. They're basically turning to us and saying, and the way they did it this year, I thought was particularly icky. So to use I don't mean to use a technical term there, but I thought it would. So let me show you. I just want to give you a feel for what they did that made me furious. So what made me really mad was that until this year, LogMeIn had a product called LogMeIn Central, which actually Martin introduced me to when LogMeIn went off the free bandwagon. By the way, I don't begrudge them charging for their service. I don't begrudge anyone that. That's not what I'm saying. So, so this is Central, and then here's the plan. So I want you to watch this really carefully. This is called the base plan. Okay. So until this year, the base plan meant you could have remote access, which had multiple monitors and basic features that Garrett and Therese were talking about, with a lot of the robustness of LogMeIn, their ability to delegate, their reporting ability, which is very robust, very excellent security, decent tech support, multiple monitors, but not file transfer.
Yeah, not the pro.
Yeah, not the pro, exactly. Not file transfer.
Remote sound.
Not remote sound, thank you very much. That I got that by accident one time. It was horrible. I had to listen to the radio. My customers listening. So
No remote printing.
And no remote printing. Quite so. What they did this year was they eliminated that plan and replaced it with this base plan, which includes these features that I don't want or need. But they're charging the premium price that I was avoiding in the first place. So essentially, my deal with LogMeIn for 250 users was about 18, I think it was 1,500 a year or something, which is very reasonable. I could charge each person $20. Everyone is happy. There's no problem. But from talking with Martin, before I even called them for my renewal, because I know how they've done this in the past, you call them for renewal and they say, well, you know, this year we're grandfathering you. Who knows what will happen next year? I can't do business with people like this. It drives me crazy.
Well, and also your $20 gives the customers unstable.
Right.
Because to sustain that, it might be 45 next year, and the customers don't sit still for that.
It's not fair to the customer, and especially because there's no improvement. This would be different if they really were improving the product in a way that made sense to me, but it doesn't. And to take away this option, they're basically saying, we really, really don't care about you at all. And so my reaction to that is to feel really upset and furious, because as I say, I have an emotional relationship with this tool, just like a carpenter does with a screwdriver. Like, this is what I use to relate to my customers. If it's not something that I feel safe with, and in this case, I don't feel safe economically, I needed to move on. This was not easy. I have hundreds of customers that are on LogMeIn. It means, and it's complicated. I've got customers who are a group, as we were talking about, Gary, I have these customers who get their license through me. I give them 10 licenses or 20 licenses, and then they have delegated authority over that. Works beautifully. But I have to turn to these folks and say, we're switching programs. I will say, because my customers are very much like me, we all share this business personality. They said, they did what? So I got a lot of support for this process. So when I was hunting around, I didn't know about ConnectWise, and it's great to know about it, and it might even be a better solution than the one I chose, which is part of the fun. So that's why I belong to this group. So
I have a 500 license Central account.
But you have, you have 500
For
Yeah.
which,
Log me in.
for log, and are you paying it yourself, Arthur, or do you charge the
Well,
customer?
no, then
You delegate it. You
yeah, in
have-
fact, just last night, I took 2 people who were about to get renewed for 2 computer subscriptions to Pro.
Yeah.
At $372 a year.
Right.
And I transferred them to my account, and I'm charging them less than half of that. And I said, I get to defray part of the cost, because I'm annoyed at them.
Yes.
And these people save a lot of money.
Yeah, it is important to understand that for people who want to use LogMeIn individually, it's a fortune. It's I think it's $175 per year per computer or something.
Yeah, the minimum is a 2 computer license for $350 a year plus.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's steep.
Yeah, and that's compared to the $20 that we're offering or whatever you're doing for your customer. So, yes, Mark.
The Log Me In Pro for individuals used to be $50 a year. And so
No.
it has a similar growth to this.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share, the way I got these discounts was I just stumbled onto the idea of calling them in advance of the renewal. Because, you can't buy like 5 years from now, as you can with, web hosting or other services. So I somehow managed to call them 1 year early, from the February 2014 to 2015. My price stayed the same because I called them a month early and I happened to catch them before they, increased their price by 50%. Not that year, but the next year, somehow it also came up that I could get 15 months instead of 12 months. So calling early and asking for a longer period has helped.
Although I should add that someone has that kind of wiggle room with their prices, you kind of wonder, like, this whole situation just feels like they're just taking in, like, it doesn't feel like a proper business relationship. So I wanted to tell you about the hunting around, partly so people can learn from my experience. Yes?
I have a question. You offer the LogMeIn software for your customers to use. What do you use for remote connectivity to your clients?
Oh, so we put a LogMeIn license on the customer's computer. They then are on our list, and we can then connect to their computer when we need to. So does that answer that question?
So yeah, it's Log Me In for both.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah.
Or our admin as you just.
Right. I do have customers who, I do have customers who have opted for ArdMin because of its speed. The connectivity speed with ArdMin is fabulous. And so this is a little ArdMin window here. You can open dozens of these. It's a very powerful program. It's incredibly quick. It's essentially instantaneous and extremely reliable. It has a couple of flaws. It has no screen blanking. This is shocking. And people have written to ArdMin and say, you're selling this professional sharing product that's used by all these network professionals, and you don't have screen blanking and keyboard locking? And their response was, turn off the monitor. Yeah, I'm not joking. Yeah, it's absurd. You can't use this in a corporate situation where you're connecting to the machine and there could be people in the office. You simply can't use ArdMin at all. But for more private situations, it's fabulous, and I strongly recommend it. Yeah.
You said you need a static IP?
In order for, you need to arrange, ArdMin takes some real work. You have to have a static IP. We buy it through Dynu.net. You can buy a roving static IP. Does everyone know what I'm talking about?
Dynamic DNS.
It's a dynamic DNS option. It's free. I recommend Dynu.net. It's a really good product and it's free. DYNU, Dynu.net. Yeah, I'll put them up here. Dynu.net lets you create a name. So I'll demonstrate it for you. If you look at my ArdMin here, the viewer lets you set up. These are the computers in our office. They're named after teachers, and we're an educational outfit, so we name all our computers after teachers. So Jim Panett was my rabbi. Is my rabbi. So this machine, the connectoid for ArdMin, uses an IP address, but the IP address is a name, not a number. Because I use Comcast. Comcast can change my IP address whenever it likes.
That's right.
Dynu.net, if you go to Dynu.net, you can set up a relationship between a name that you choose. It would be arthurpivot.dynu.net. That then gets, you put software on your machine that talks to the Comcast router and gets the updates. So you can always guarantee that name will allow you in. But then you have to set up port forwarding in the router, going to fixed IP address on a machine in the network. So it takes a technician to do this, and sometimes the routers are uncooperative. But once you've done it, you're done. You paid $50 for the license in perpetuity. I haven't renewed it in 12 or 15 years. It's by far a better deal than any of this remote software. So if it makes sense for you logistically to do it. And you may have customers for whom it's the right choice. We have a customer who's one of those remote virtual assistants. She's a secretary, and her ability to get into the customer's computer instantly, do her work, and get out, and have a lot more control of the screen, file transfer features, and other. It's a lovely system.
What's the dynamic cost a year?
It's free.
It's free?
Yeah, the static IP service is free.
And how many IPs?
Any number. Yeah, you just sign up. They're wonderful. I really enjoyed working with them. So, so I want to talk about this search and what I looked at, and also tell you some additional resources. In real life, now, ConnectWise actually may offer a really nice option that will substitute for what I do. But I often find that customers, for one reason or another, can't install the client that I'm trying to set up. Macs are worse than PCs, but in general, I'll send it to them, it won't work, they won't be able to find the icon, there'll be some issue. So I wanted to open by talking about tugboats.
The defendant will have
So a tugboat, I think this is actually a term Martin and I maybe even termed together. A tugboat is a program that you use in order to get the remote access installed. So if you're having trouble installing ConnectWise or one of these larger programs,
It's not even technical trouble. It can be trying to explain to the client how to do it, and they have no idea what you're saying.
yeah, they're just lost. And so I have a couple of tugboats that are easy that I want to share with you and add to your repertoire of what to do when you need to get to a customer computer. The other advantage of these tugboats is they require no passwording of any kind that you need to worry about. It's a one-time password arrangement. So the first tugboat is showmypc.com. So showmypc.com allows you to tell the customer, go to showmypc.com, and you'll see a blue sky and a lovely tree on the right. Now, I'm not joking. There are so many spammy, nasty websites in the world that you can tell your customer, go to this website. The mistake my customer, remember, you can't see their machine yet, right? The mistake my customers often make is they Google Show My PC, and they get a bunch of Google hits, and it takes them God knows where. You want to get them to the real website. And so they've been very kind enough to provide us with a tree and a lovely blue screen, which at least I haven't found any imitators. And then you tell them, go over here and put the cursor on the orange part. I've never had a customer with trouble with this. And then put View PC and click on Download Run. And what it does is it downloads a file, and most of my customers have a good handle on that. And then you run this little guy. And so far, so good. I found 99% of customers, regardless of the circumstances, can handle this. And the beauty of this is that, especially with a customer who's nervous or you don't want to get into intimate details with, this gives you temporary access to their computer that you can guarantee will not continue. But it lets you see what's going on, which can make such a huge difference. So here's the interface that this creates. It's this little guy here. So you tell the customer, click on Start a Meeting, this white triangle. And again, the graphics are nice enough so people can do that. So, and then ask, what do you want to do? And you say, yeah, just allow mouse and keyboard control. That's fine. So then it connects. And as Martin was pointing out, this uses VNC, which was a free open source software developed by Bell Labs. And it's actually quite effective, except it doesn't handle installations very well. So this is not robust software. But it gets you in so you can see the screen. The customer will read you this number, and then you'll enter this number in the password field, and you'll have access to their machine. Don't try to install programs. Don't try to do anything too fancy, because you'll need your customer's help if you do that. But it's very good for a quick visit. The other one that I use as a tugboat is anydesk.com, which I learned about in this group, actually. And anydesk.com is very similar. And actually looks like a very nice product, but their licensing scheme is so weird. I can't figure out, they're German, and I can't figure out how to pay and how much things cost. It's just this very weird concurrent thing I can't figure out. ConnectWise makes much more sense to me from the description. But with this one, you can have the person click on this free download button, run the program, and then it opens up this one's even easier than remote PC. I've been using it more because from a simplicity standpoint, it's really very, and notice how fast these things download. So if you run this, you'll get this funny screen. It's a funny program. It's kind of cute. And the customer just has to read this black number to you, and then you're in. So I recommend these two as a quick, yeah, Mark? Yes.
If the PC is free?
They're both free. They're both completely free.
Well, if we have this one.
Yeah, if you want to start using them, I don't recommend either of these products for what we're about to talk about, but they're useful as a tugboat. They're useful to get you into the machine so you can do what you need to do if you're stuck. And I will tell you, probably other people have this experience. I've used perfectly good software, LogMeIn, Remote PC, these other software, and they just don't work on some computers. You have some kind of weird problem, and these ones get you in so you can get the job done and do something useful. So I'm grateful for them. So when I started looking for products for this, I found that TeamViewer and AnyDesk and Show My PC, I couldn't make sense of their licensing arrangements. Yeah.
We have a couple of questions here. You mentioned ConnectWise a few times. Which module are you referring to, control or automate?
Garrett, do you know the difference between control and automate ConnectWise?
What was the question?
What's the difference? Do you use Connect?
You mentioned ConnectWise a few times. Which module are you referring to, control or automate? And I have another question after that.
I think it's control.
Control.
And have you used the Chrome remote?
No, I don't know. I have never used it. Is it a different product?
Control is for connection to computers. Automate is to manage the software
Yeah, so we would use control. But what, does anyone know what Chrome remote is?
on computers.
It's part of Google. It's a Google product?
It's a Google product, yeah. It's not that great.
Okay.
Yeah,
The reviews are poor from BNUG.
especially since Chrome is a hog on resources.
That is true. Okay, so because I couldn't make sense of their licensing, I had not, yeah, Mark?
So just back to what you had earlier about going to the wrong website.
Yes.
I used LogMeIn's pre-created installer, that's already keyed to my account. So when they install, they don't get a generic login setup, they get into my account right away. That way I don't have to share my password. But I came up with the idea of using a little shortener. I use bit.ly. So they just have a bit.ly / and then an acronym that I came up with. And if they mistype it, they're likely to get nothing. So that's my way of dealing with, how do you find it? Partly because it's privately branded, and partly because it's just much shorter than the process of getting it.
Do you tell it to them over the phone, Mark?
Well, most clients I tell over the phone. From my, especially elderly clients, I'll email them the link.
Yeah.
They can just click it.
That's a really good idea. So,
One more question with regards to Chrome remote. That's part of the Chrome browser.
Yes.
yes, apparently,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, you can get it from the Chrome web store.
Oh, so it's an add-on.
Oh, yeah,
And then
that
add-on
on our
to Chrome.
extension.
Yeah, so I think when I was hunting, I looked at these different options, and because I couldn't figure out what the billing situation was, I couldn't figure out how do I make this work. And also, I have to say that I was very accustomed to LogMeIn. So I sought a company that was trying to compete directly with LogMeIn and would match it, its features. So I found one, and I want to say that my results with this product have been basically good, but with some caveats. So I want to share the good and the bad with you, and very glad to know about ConnectWise. I want to learn more about it.
I have one more comment on ConnectWise.
Yes.
From my contact
Yes.
in Detroit. He says, ConnectWise Control has an unlimited user computers for around $40 per administration license per month. He uses this software. They have 3 licenses, and their monthly cost is $129.
How many customers? So why? I'm puzzled about the relationship between that and what Garrett was talking about. So how many technicians do they have, Steve?
I'm waiting for his response. 3. He has 3 technicians.
I'm
That's
puzzled.
strange.
Because you guys can have 10 technicians and an unlimited number. Why is he paying the 120 a month?
120 a month?
Yeah.
Boy.
He's
For
paying
3
100. He had
technicians.
3 $40 licenses for some reason. I'm not understanding.
So you're saying if it's 3 $40 licenses, would be 120, but he's paying 129. Maybe he can reply.
Yeah, tell him we're puzzled. We'd like to know what plan he's on.
Including tax.
Yeah, we'd like to know planning what he's on.
That includes tax.
Okay.
Maybe that's what.
That's the $9.
No, but it still doesn't make sense. I'm still not understanding because there's a huge difference between $100 a month, $120 a month, and $55 a month.
$55 a year?
No, $55 a month.
Oh, a month.
That's what you guys are paying, right? That's what Garrett's paying.
Yeah.
Garrett's paying 50. This sounds like there's more to learn about this, and learn about. Again, I want to express how much this is so much has to be tailored to your business. This is something that, like Garrett's situation, is different than mine, for example, and I would have to look at ConnectWise and try to figure out, is this, so I went through this process. The one I found was Remote PC, which I have to say my initial reaction to them was lukewarm because they're owned by iDrive, which is a cloud-based solution. And this looked it looked a little cheesy. Like it looked like, these guys, I'm not sure they have their act together. And I continue to feel that way in some ways about their product. Having said that, there was something about this experience that was remarkably refreshing. It turns out that this is one guy, basically a developer who went to work for iDrive and developed this program for them. And what was so refreshing about this is I have been asking LogMeIn, which is our neighbor, LogMeIn is in Summer Street, Boston, to return my phone call even to talk about coming and talking to Bina. And they're too high and mighty even to return my phone call for years. This guy, the developer, got on the phone and talked with me about what he was doing, and I talked to him about what I needed, and they were extremely helpful. My favorite moment was when it didn't have a feature I wanted, and he said, "Oh, I'll put that on for you." It was on next week. It was really amazing. So I want to just walk you through this. This is not to say this solves everybody's problem or is the right product for everyone, but I want to share the process I went through with you so you have a feel for it. As always, I will hawk KeyPass, the wonderful free open source software that we use for passwords. I strongly recommend this. How
much did that cost?
It was free.
Yeah,
was
did
free.
they get hacked though?
No.
I thought they got hacked a few
No.
months ago, or was it LastPass?
No.
KeyPass doesn't store anything.
KeyPass doesn't store anything on the cloud. It's a local solution. It uses AES encryption. It's not hackable.
Okay.
I mean, everything's hackable in theory, but it's as safe as it gets. I really love this program, and it's part of my my effort. We have a program at our company called Drop Dead Safely, where we help people get their password act together in case something bad happens. And so KeyPass is a wonderful tool. I recommend you go home, if you haven't done this, go home and put your passwords, your secret questions, and your credit card stuff in a good KeyPass database and email it to your executive. Do this soon, because if you get sick, it will help you.
I have another response from our person in Detroit.
Yes.
It's a long story about why we are using ConnectWise. We have been LogMeIn customers for 6 years, and the cost skyrocketed. Okay, there's something on the board I'll have to show you in a minute or two. We've had 500 user licenses, and our annual costs increased to close to $8,000, Central with Pro. We went to ConnectWise and saved $7,000. We now use LogMeIn for our clients to remote into their PCs. We charge them an annual fee for this service.
So he's raving about ConnectWise, but he's still using LogMeIn.
I'm a little confused, John.
Yeah. So I want to just make a few more comments. I always like to weave in some practice stuff as we go. So for people who struggle with customers with passwords, I think a lot of us do, I strongly recommend you encourage them to use KeyPass or a program like it. I strongly prefer it to the web-based solutions from what I've seen so far for a whole bunch of reasons. But most people have real problems creating passwords. So I will tell you that that our technique for doing this is to take a song or a poem and take the first letter of each word. And I want to emphasize how powerful this technique is for a couple of reasons. It turns out that in real life, you actually have to communicate these passwords to somebody. Particularly if it's the master password, you're giving it to somebody to help you in an emergency, they have to get the right password. And this sentence technique is extremely effective. So I'm just going to give a couple of demos of it before we launch in here. So for this session, my sentence was, Okay, simple sentence, a little cheesy, but there it is. So the password is like so. You have a very powerful password that's uncrackable by a dictionary attack. Extremely easy to express over the phone, even if you haven't had ham radio training. And very easy for you to remember and use over and over again.
What is that, Adam? I can't read it.
I can make it bigger for you, Jim.
It's the first letter of each word in a sentence.
Yeah, I'll just
I
make it bigger.
can't read the sentence.
Oh. Yeah.
Oh.
Maximize the window.
And there you go.
Is that okay, John?
Yes, thank you.
So sometimes, so the beauty of this is that if you do this with all your passwords, it can be uplifting. Use a poem that raises your spirits. Yes.
And you might change Tia to a digit 2 if you need numbers.
Yes, if they make a requirement, my own bias about this is just to put the number at the end when they make that requirement so that you can keep the logic. It's the logic of the password that I really want to emphasize. It makes your life much easier and it's much more attractive to customers. When I've done this with customers who've been password phobic, it's really helped them get adjusted. So I'm going to take this password.
You're getting the new line in the paragraph break as well?
That's fine. And we'll see. We'll see if KeyPass lets me in. It did.
Oh, okay.
So here's KeyPass. Very simple Rolodex for passwords. The feature that I bring to recommend you is if we take a look at the. Let's find out what I've got here. Sweet. This is missing something. That's okay. If you go in here to the advanced tab, you can create fields. So this is where you put in credit card numbers, expiration dates, secret questions. So a quick comment on this. Just install a Windows 10 computer to create a local user. You need to have 3 secret questions. So I just want to emphasize that this is a very powerful tool to avoid trouble later, but also it allows you to avoid what is called the Sarah Palin problem. So Governor Palin, when she ran for vice president in 2008, had her email hacked. And the reason why was her secret questions were, what is my husband's name? And what college did I go to? You laugh because she's a public figure. It's obvious that anyone could hack in. You are a public figure too. My Yale Station post office box from 40 years ago is available on the internet. You can find it in 5 minutes. Just look. It's ridiculous. You have no idea what's out there. And so when you use these secret questions that they ask, you really are running the risk that there are people sitting around with a lot of time in their hands that are trying to break into stuff.
Well, clients argue with me about, no one would know the name of the puppy I had when I was 5 years old.
You're right.
It's on Facebook.
The next year, your neighbor has written a memoir.
Yeah, exactly. That stupid dog kept barking. Yeah.
And
If you put in the wrong answer to a question, no one will be able to guess it.
Exactly.
If you went to Boston University for your undergraduate degree,
Yes.
and the question is, where did I go to school for my undergraduate degree?
Yes.
And you put Green Hills of Nevada as your answer, no one's going to guess
Oh,
that.
I put green sheets.
and I do something
That'll work
similar.
too.
That's a good.
Okay, hold on. It seems to be agreement that this is a good technique. I used to call it lying. Now I call it fictionalizing. You take your pick. The important thing is store it. Nobody, as Mark Twain says, nobody has a good enough memory to be a good liar.
And unfortunately, copy and paste in those fields doesn't always work because the questions are a separate format from the answers. So I use my screen capture software to grab the questions and the answers and paste it into my password vault.
For what it's worth, I found that KeyPass has worked with most things, but there may be some places where it doesn't. Okay, so what I'd like to do is show you this remote PC event. I think I figured out what my problem is. Bear with me for just a second. So it has a nice open recent thing. Just have trouble finding the right one. Bear with me for a second.
Yeah, how do you choose which KeyPass database to use for which passwords? Is it by client or by function?
By function. So we have in our company, we have a high security database And then we have so any good business person knows that the money is controlled by the owner. I once had a customer, and she ran a substantial construction company. She says, I signed every check. She never had an embezzlement because she signed everything. You'll see here, I'm seeing, yeah, here's what happened. I opened the wrong demo here. So this answers your question, Martin. I had 2 demos for BNAG. This is from a previous talk and doesn't have the one I need.
But the other one saying you're in the wrong demo.
You're in the wrong demo, right?
Well, there was a presenter at BOSUG in February 2016, he was an expert on security. And he talked about how he has 3 levels of passwords. Low level for newspapers or whatever that demands you set up an account to get content. And then medium level for stuff that requires somewhat higher security, but doesn't really involve finances or PII. And then high security, which are really strong passphrases for financial and PII.
Okay. Yeah, I think that one of the great things about BNUG is it has an exporting feature. So you can keep that. Yeah, BNUG also has an exporting feature. It has an exporting feature, so you can export. You can export from a large database. You can delegate, for example, you want a particular employee to work on a particular project. You can delegate a folder.
Okay.
And give it to someone.
Do you have any experience with something called KeyPass to Android?
I haven't used it, but I've had customers and coworkers who have used KeyPass on various things, on phones. One technique we've been using is putting KeyPass on Dropbox and then sharing it among people, which has worked very well. It's completely safe because even though I don't trust Dropbox, the KeyPass database you could post on the internet. It's a safe database.
Well,
The problem I've had in Dropbox with things like Quicken is that if 2 people try to open the file at the same time, the file can get corrupted because
we haven't had because KeyPass is completely networkable. KeyPass is safe to use as a network, and I recommend this method for corporation. Throw the database on Dropbox, give everyone access to Dropbox, and have them connect with KeyPass. It works beautifully, and it's heartwarming. You're not putting it in the cloud. You're putting it in a safe place where it doesn't matter if someone can get to it. You're not trusting the login company, which owns LastPass, with vital passwords, which after this, I don't trust them.
Well, I found KeyPass to be a useful tool because every once in a while I run into a client that has embedded passwords in the browsers.
Yes, which we don't want to do.
KeyPass is valuable for scraping the passwords out of the browsers and storing them.
100%.
I think the question is, Drew is asking, how do you keep the database file synchronized with all the devices? If you have password to Windows database that needs to be read by your tablet and phone, for example, how do you keep all the databases in sync automatically? You may have just answered that.
It's built into the program.
So what you might do,
as long as you have the database in one place and you're accessing it from different places, it has a synchronization system built in.
And John has KeyPass 2 on a network drive at work. It's on a secured connection with limited availability and a very unique password, 26 characters, not on the cloud.
Scary.
Oh, and Drew is saying, can we do this without Dropbox? Well, pCloud, iCloud.
Yeah,
I think any cloud. I mean, it's a safe program. Yeah, as I say, it's AES encryption. No one's going to break into it.
I've also used it and ported it with a USB drive.
A nice way to do that as well. Okay, so yes, John.
Yes, I had one comment. I had a friend of mine that was a technician who lived in Marblehead, Mass. And he was the only technician for a cable company based out of Florida that was working in plumbing. And I gave him my KeyPass master password, told him exactly what it was, and told him it was a configuration from numeric to alphanumeric of a 1936 telephone number that my mother had while living in Cambridge. And gave him all his computer stuff, and this guy was smart as a whip. Like, 2 months later, he said, I can't break the password.
I like this simple solution.
Because the whole database, there was no numbers for the phone company to find the original phone number.
Good job. Okay, so if we look here, you'll see some passwords, and so let's dig into here. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a demo of Remote PC. So Remote PC is both web-based and I think ConnectWise is also. ConnectWise has a desktop
Yeah, it's
feature.
web-based.
But Garrett, does ConnectWise have a download program as well to your desktop, or is it all through the web?
So you say that will probably
So both LogMeIn and Remote PC, you download a client,
right.
which you can then use to access stuff, and it
Okay,
works
that's
better
okay.
Yeah,
than
that's
the
how
web.
ConnectWise works.
Does ConnectWise also download a client to you, to the person who's doing the remote
Yes.
control? Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to jump ahead. This is a little like Julia Child with the chicken's already been cooked in the oven. So this Remote PC viewer is what's been downloaded. So we're going to go into that fella. So here we're going to remove me. This is the program I'm using for the central program. But I'm going to show you, I think I'm going to try to show you the delegated program. So let's give that a try. One nice feature of KeyPass is the auto type. I'm going to try that.
Oh,
Okay. So what you're seeing here is a list of our computers. Now this is a delegated list, and I want to tell you that I understand what you're saying about ConnectWise, and I'll need to explore the technician option. But this is built natively into this program in the sense that it's designed so that, yes.
You can finish your sentence.
Yeah, it's designed so that if I want to give Arthur, Arthur's going to take care of some of my clients when I'm away for vacation. Thank you for doing that. And say, so I can give Arthur, here's this client's stuff. And it would have this list, but only this list, not the whole list of all the customers. And then Arthur would be able to take care of that. I give him the privileges that he needs to do that. This also is the way you can let clients have remote control over their own computers and do that in unlimited numbers. And it's designed natively, and the technician thing is a workaround, I think, for ConnectWise. But for this program, it's built in. And the reason why it's built in is these people they're after LogMeIn. They're trying to torpedo it. They know exactly the business opportunity that they have. And so feature for feature, they work really hard to imitate LogMeIn. What's fascinating about it is LogMeIn's a dinosaur. It's been around for a long, long time. We're using basically the same technology we used 15 years ago. This guy did this with all the modern programming tools I think they're using Sprint, they're using various kinds of techniques to do stuff really fast, agile programming and all this other stuff. So it's kind of neat. It's seeing LogMeIn as seen through a more modern lens, which I've had mixed results in, so I'll talk about that in a minute.
All right, Adam?
Yeah.
ConnectWise will do the same thing because the consultant that gave me access to ConnectWise,
Yeah.
I can see my clients, I can't see his, and I don't think he can see mine.
So we'll need to I just need to learn more about how that compares. That's what this is. I mean, we're all just trying to figure out which is which and what works best. So what you're seeing here is a list of computers with a connect button. You also have some features depending, in this delegation, I think, the feature that this guy added was the ability to do some stuff over here, which I'm not seeing right now, but we'll do that later. So Bullock is one of our computers in the office. So I'm going to try to connect to it.
How big a list do you have?
So the license I got and I got a discount, it's like $1,000 for 300 licenses. $1,000 a year for 300 licenses.
No, it's about $3 a license.
Yeah, but in real life, you don't use them all. Some people don't pay for them. Some of them are internal. So yeah, the real cost to of customers is probably higher. But it's a bargain. I mean, it's substantially less than LogMeIn is charging. So this personal key is something that you set on the computer. And I'll show you that in just a moment. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
well, your MiFi might have lower bandwidth.
Yes, but this is part of the flaw of this program. My experience is people with dodgy internet connections,
It's not retrying.
yeah, it's having trouble connecting. So people with dodgy internet connections, it doesn't work so great. And I found the LogMeIn is more robust. And from your account of ConnectWise, you have no connectivity issues at all. So I've definitely had them with this program. That's the bad news. The good news is I usually find I get through it pretty fast. Usually it retries, it gets in. Once in a while it doesn't. I'm not sure what's going on
You're
here.
running this on your Windows 7 PC,
Correct.
which is connected to another PC in your same office?
No. It's going everything through the internet. Like this remote PC is an internet cloud-based system. It happens to be in the same office, but it's going to California first.
All right, yeah.
Well, but it's going through the Wi-Fi here.
And it's going through Wi-Fi here. Actually, it's not.
No.
We're remotely connecting with our admin. We're just remote controlling to my computer. We should not have this problem at all. I've got a high-speed internet connection. This is a Windows 7 machine we're looking at.
Right, but the connection in this room.
But that doesn't matter. We're remote, this is a joy of remote control. The great thing about remote control is it doesn't know when you're a dog on the internet. The great thing about remote control is that what I'm doing from here is just sending keystrokes and mouse strokes back and forth.
It's laptop is XP, right?
But it's laptop's an XP
You're looking at
laptop.
Windows 7.
Oh,
We're
sorry,
using
sorry,
our
sorry.
admin to connect,
Got it,
right?
sorry, I got it.
Okay, so this is a bad,
Using an XP.
yeah, this is an XP using our admin. But then it's our admin to a fancy computer back in my office. I'm gonna stop this and try again.
Yeah, but doesn't have to send the screen view back?
It doesn't matter.
A lot of
It's-
resources.
It's really not. The whole thing about remote control software, the key to its beauty is that it's sending very little back and forth. It sends changes, it sends deltas. It's not sending big screenshots back.
Okay.
Well, that's one thing, that's actually on my list. That's one thing I like about Login. I can choose the resolution of what it's sending me and lighten the load on the client's computer in case that helps.
Yep.
Has anyone done TeamViewer? I know you're in the middle of this, but.
Yeah, so I've certainly used TeamViewer. I think other people here have as well.
Yeah.
At one time or another. Yeah, it's a perfectly good remote software. I'm going to give up on this fellow for a second. We'll try this one instead and see. I have no idea why we're having trouble. Usually it's pretty instantaneous. I think I did put in the right key. Let me try again. So now it's opened up this thing down here, and here I am. So I'm at Oleg, which was my student Maggie's teacher, and now I'm at the computer in every way. I go to view and go to full screen, and I'm really at the computer. I just want to make a little comment. This is a Toshiba running XP, but look what I can do. I now have, because I have good firepower back home, I now have full access to the internet and all my programs and all my data and everything. And this computer, if I break it, I'll get another one. If someone takes it, they get nothing. This is a really powerful technique. Remote access software has gotten so fast and so powerful that you are essentially working at the other computer, but you're using a really inexpensive computer on the road, which I really recommend. So here I am. I'm at this computer in every way. The speed is perfect. I occasionally get cut off, and then it reconnects usually pretty instantaneously. But if we're comparing ConnectWise from your guys' experience and mine, this is an inferior program. It does lose its connection with some frequency. It really happens, and I don't like it. Having said that, it's got some other lovely things. It's got file transfer, chat, whiteboard, record now. You can send all kinds of stuff to it. You know, for example, I'll run the task manager.
And don't forget to talk about the password that you chose. The access password is not the user's password.
Right, yeah. So there are two levels of passwords. So in order to get into the original account, I used this "we need a village" thing. That got me into the list of computers, but not into the individual computer. Each computer has its own password, and I'll show that to you. For those who are acquainted with Logmein, Logmein has an intimate relationship with Windows. It uses the Windows password usually. If you have one, you have to use the Windows password. I've actually found this quite awkward. I have customers that don't really want to share their Windows password, and it's awkward to sometimes figure out what's the user of this computer. There's a whole bunch of issues. So this avoids that issue entirely by creating this cute little connectoid. I call it a swirly lollipop with a computer in it. If you right-click on it, you can edit or remove the personal key, and that's the way the password is set. So you basically, once you install the program, which you can do, the thing I like about this over Logmein is I basically send the link. You guys talked about your link. I have a link too. Martin has a link for Logmein. You guys have a link that you send. I can send my link, my customized link. The moment they install it, I have immediate access to full access to the computer. It's as fast as show my PC or anything else. It's very convenient. There's no passwording involved. The problem with logging in is to do anything. The person has to install a program, they have to deal with the password. Not this. This, you immediately have that, and then you immediately must go in and set this password. You cannot install this program. It's a dangerous program. Never ever install this program and don't leave this personal key. You need to have that locked in. But the other thing that I love about this, I'm not going to do it because it will take us out. But if I click on disable remote PC, it's disabled. Nobody can use remote PC until the customer goes back in and enables it. For our customer base, we find this a really wonderful thing. It sends a very strong message, and I found almost all the customers like it. They say, oh, it's time for me to turn this off, right? They feel safer. And it's not because they don't trust me. They're saying, it's my space. I don't.
Well, and there might be a hacker tomorrow who figures out how to break that.
There's a whole bunch of issues there. And I think, but my main point about it is about exposure, which is that if you have a good policy in place, so I'm a big believer in policies. If you have a policy in place where you say, we normally ask customers to switch this off when we're done, then it's your policy, it's your practice, you get in the habit of doing it. And then if something bad happens and a customer says, you were in my computer, you can say, we have a policy about this. This is the way we do things. And it puts you in a stronger and better position. There's unfortunately always a small percentage of people who have screw loose. And I'm saying that having had screw looses in my time, I can say that with complete, yeah. But it's important to recognize that you have to set up policies to deal with that simple reality. So, okay, so it does have a file transfer feature, which I find works with, I find it spotty, it's not so great. But when it does work, it's really lovely. It can be very, very helpful.
It's great when it works.
Yeah, it has an enable sound, which also, when it works, has sometimes been helpful. I found their technical support to be responsive in a sense, in that they're very nice people. They're really eager to make this work well. They don't strike me as being extremely proactive. Like this issue about the disconnections, they've never really dealt with in a way that makes me very satisfied. On the other hand, those of us in the computer business get used to doing the best we can with what we have. I found this a very serviceable program. It allows me to delegate. It's got good, solid security. It's very easy to install. It's a very simple interface. So I'm pretty satisfied with it. And we rolled it out this year in preparation for lifting our login license. Yeah.
One of the crazy things I'm experiencing with this New Year's logging in with all the extra features that I never wanted. On the one hand, remote sound really helped me with a client, whereas I normally would say I never needed it.
Yeah.
Older clients with poor hearing in particular these clients, couldn't hear when their keyboard was getting plugged in or unplugged from the computer. There's a little clunky sound, from Windows. And that was the crux of the keyboard problem. But the fact that I could hear it, I couldn't hear it on the phone, I could hear it through the computer, saved the day. I said, oh, this must be a keyboard problem, not something else. So ironically, that helped me.
Yeah.
But what's been a super pain in the ass is the so-called remote printing, whereas when I connect to your machine, my default printer suddenly shows up as the default printer on your machine. So if either one of us hits print, it comes out in my office, which is insane. I mean, it's a lovely feature, but it should be off by default. So,
and I think in remote PC, it is off by default.
And especially when I'm connecting to help them with a printer question.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to explain, oh, sorry, my infrastructure is interfering with my ability to help you. That's just embarrassing. But it took me a while to figure that out.
I would definitely like to experiment more with these different solutions. I want to note that I found that remote PC for logging into different machines has worked really well. I've been very comfortable with multiple machines. I like the full screen view. Unlike logging in, it does not have a magnifying glass. But it turns out Windows 10 does, and I just use the Windows 10 magnifying glass. And in fact, this gives you a feeling for the informality of this company. I called them, I said, no magnifying glass. They said, oh, come on, we don't have time to do that. Use the Windows 10 one.
So you can open, at this moment, you can now open another session to another computer and have them both open on your side.
Oh, absolutely, I'll do it. Yeah.
And it supports multiple monitors?
Yes. Yeah, I don't have, none of my computers have multiple monitors, but it works. It has a little switch monitor feature. Now, this poor guy is having an awful time. And let's cancel it and see if we can figure out what's going on.
But one of the things I like in logging in is I can either switch between the user's monitors or get them both up in one combined window. That way I don't have to say, I've had experience many times of looking at a client's screen going, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. And I forget they even have multiple monitors. But of course, they're sitting at their desk. It's obvious to them.
It is definitely using remote access is definitely an art of knowing which computer you're on, which monitor you're on,
Yeah.
and getting a feel for that. And it's part of the occupational hazard of using this feature. So
And
let's
also, I found reminding the client, don't touch the mouse and don't key in anything on the keyboard.
we could use keyboard locking. Both these programs have keyboard locking.
True.
So that.
But I found sometimes I have to cede control back to the client because they need to show me something.
So let's try and experiment for a moment. We're going to go into bullet using backdoor. So the other thing I want to tell you all, since we're all computer people here, and our guests, I want to say that it's good to have multiple options. So for your own computer infrastructure, having several different of these programs running, I have both RAdmin and remote PC or logging in running. There have been times when I've been grateful for that. So, and this is one of them. So I'm going to go into bullet here.
Oh, I would add into that. I have a client whose computer was off for 8 months at their summer home. And I tried to connect with logging in when they opened the home for the summer. And it just wouldn't connect. I couldn't figure out why, but I still had VNC on there. So I connected easily with VNC, and then I could see what the problem was. In those 8 months, all the security certificates had expired. Logging is so secure that it was hobbled by the expired security certificates. And VNC, being very casual, couldn't have cared less. So using VNC, I did the Windows updates, and then logging in came back to life.
So I'm intrigued by this. I'm observing that our nice machine here is having a bad day. That probably doesn't have to do with remote PC. If you observe, unless remote PC is causing the problem, which I've never seen, what I could do is go into remote PC and tell it to stop doing whatever it's doing. But as you see, this is RAdmin at work. RAdmin has these multiple menus, you can get very confused. See how it's going up and down there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, come on, little guy, come on down. Come on down, there we go.
That's a good boy.
Back up again.
I gotta get the right one. I think this is, this is Pinet. I want to get inside Pinet into the other one. What I'll do is, see the two little thumbtacks? You can play with the thumbtacks.
Do they give you thimbles?
I think I do.
Do they give you thimbles?
Yeah, it's symbolism.
No, so you won't get hurt by the thumbtacks.
Yes.
I'm going to get the speaker.
I'll get this one. It's a little one. It is a little one. Okay,
You can't move that menu out of the way.
It's a little awkward, but let me see. I find that but what I'm puzzled by is, I think, is the big one. The little one is acting like it's acting like it's Pinet. But I want so if I do this, that changes Pinet size. I want the other menu, if I can get it there. So I believe, let's see, is this the Pinet one? It's acting strange. There's something really funny going on with Bullock here. It's having a bad day that I suspect does not have to do with remote PC, which, as I say, although I have had disconnections, the reconnections usually work pretty well. So
Adam,
yeah.
Maybe Sandra is in the wrong studio.
Oh, different Bullock. Yeah. This is one of my teachers. Okay, so I think the thing that I want to emphasize is that it's certainly worth experimenting with these to figure out what's going to work best for you. They're really these different. I really appreciate the sharing that people have done about what's worked best for them. I do urge everybody to try a free RAdmin license and experiment with learning how to do the port forwarding and the DINU static IP. And please let me know if you have questions about that, because I think it's a really wonderful internal tool. That, so there's another thing I wanted to show you. Yes, just another comment about KeyPass, which is that it saves everything in what's called a KDBX file. So you saw that when I was looking through my VNet directory. So here's my VNet directory. Notice I have several of these little files. They're teeny, but they're really powerful. They're action-packed. And this file is at the heart of good password management, in my opinion, because you could send it to people. It's safe to send. It's safe to email. So, for example, you're running a company or your customer is running a company, and you want everybody to share the passwords appropriately, and you set up the right KeyPass databases so people are doing that. People can update them and email them, or you can use Dropbox to synchronize. I can't tell you what a difference this has made in dealing with customers. I was at a corporate customer the other day, and I don't know how it could have gotten through the day. They were putting in new servers. They're a mess. Their password situation's a mess, but mine isn't. And so I really urge you to, if you're not using password management, I urge you to use it. I will take this opportunity, so we just have a couple more minutes, unless there's pressing questions. I do want to say a few words about cloud-based password management. And you may be asking, why is this guy talking about password management when we're talking about remote access? It's intimately involved, as you can just imagine. In order to do effective remote access, you have to have good password management. You have to know the customer's passwords, but you have to have a safe way to keep them. So I just want to make a couple of comments about doing this effectively. I'm very, very concerned about cloud-based password management for several reasons. One is an incident that happened where a customer was using LastPass, which is owned by LogMeIn, a company that I've done business with for 15 years. This customer could not get into her LastPass password. And so she went through the password recovery and said, we're sorry, we can't recover your password. You'll have to recreate the database. This is the free LastPass thing. This is a fable for our times. All this free service, the free everything that everyone's getting, it isn't. There's a cost to everything, and every business person knows it. If you trust a company with a cloud-based company that's spending money on you, for example, LogMeIn spending money on LastPass, they're doing it for a reason. And they're not doing it because they love you. They're doing it for their own reasons that may not be very loving at all. And I'm very concerned about passwords. The fact is if you entrust your passwords to one of these cloud-based databases and you don't keep a backup of these passwords, I just think it's really improper. I think we should not be encouraging customers to do it. You should be stepping in and saying, wait a minute. You need to export these passwords. They need to be kept in a place where the head of the board of directors can get access. Yes.
So you're talking about a piece of software that says, we will store your passwords for you.
Yes.
As opposed to something like KeyPass, where you have the file and KeyPass is accessing it. So you can put that on a memory stick on your computer.
Yes.
You can print it. Well, a lot of things.
You can print it, actually.
The database is in the cloud, not on your machine.
Right, but it's in the cloud, controlled by somebody else who has made you sign these agreements that completely waive any kind of liability. This is really a bad scene.
That's a bad idea.
It's everywhere, though. And I want to tell you, for example, customers using Dashlane, which is a very popular program. These are very sophisticated programs, and they really do make you feel like you're being secure. They make up a tough password, you put it in. But if you actually, Simon Templar, the great thief of literary fame by Leslie Charteris, who's called The Saint.
The Saint,
yeah. His comment was, the front door always has all its locks. Go around the back, it's a swinging screen door. These programs are like this. They're not well thought out in many cases. And so what you really need to do is you need to come up with a good, solid, effective way. And I really recommend this. And what I want to tell you is that if you set this up for a customer and for yourself, and you have this KDBX file, it allows you to email it. So I'll just say a few words about succession to wrap up today. Part of our job as computer people, we're doing remote access, for example. We're not going to be here forever. Somebody's going to take over. Sharice was giving an example where somebody gave you some customers to take care of and delegated passwords to you, who delegated remote control to you.
Yep.
You need a way to delegate passwords to people. You need to have effective password management and a way to give those passwords to someone safely. A program like KeyPass is a great way to start, even if it only gets your head straight about this. You don't even have to use it. You can use a different password management program. I find KeyPass a wonderful idea because basically what it is it's a Rolodex. You put the passwords in it, you lock it, you can give it to somebody else. People have asked me, for example, our Drop Dead Safely program talks about, well, give your kids access to your bank accounts. And parents say, actually, I'm not sure that's such a swell idea. So what we recommend, though, but KeyPass gives you a wonderful vehicle. you give KeyPass to your kids, but you don't give them the password. You give the password to a trusted friend, and in an emergency, they get together and they can unlock things and get access to everything. Yeah.
Yeah, just for a private individual, what's wrong with just having a file, like a Word file with all of your passwords?
That's what I do.
Well, I'll tell you why I don't like that. There are a couple of reasons. First of all, for private individual, it's somewhat safe. But in fact, if you have a relative who's not untrustworthy, they could get that file because they know what you're doing. The second thing is a program like KeyPass has some wonderful features that are really helpful. For example, it makes up, when you set up a new account, say with Amazon or something, KeyPass will make up the password for you automatically. So if you wish. So when you create a new entry, I'm going to create a new entry here. We'll stop it just a minute. If you take a look at this is a new entry. So say it's Amazon. KeyPass automatically generates a password. It's scary. But here's the thing. The beauty of KeyPass is once you start using it as your index to the internet, you never have to remember another password. There are a few passwords I don't recommend doing this with. Don't do it with Uber. Don't do it with Airbnb because you may need to call a taxi. You need to know the password.
Well, that's what's in the password to get into your computer.
That's true. But for most passwords, most website passwords, you don't need to know them, and you don't want to know them. You want them to be like this. And the chain of passwords we're very concerned about. People, there are websites where you can go and buy passwords, buy lots of passwords that are then used because they know everyone's using the same password for everything. And so if you can break into Facebook, you can then use the password to get into a bank. This protects you from that. This creates an airlock between each account. It also has a password generator where you can specify exactly how long the password is, exactly what's included in it, because some different companies have different rules. It also has the auto type feature, which I find extremely wonderful. So basically what you do is you go to the website, you click auto type, it enters the username and password, and clicks the OK button. Once you get in the habit of doing this, I find it extremely useful. And your executor will bless you. You will be dead or sick or whatever, but your executor will be able to actually get into this stuff. I want to really emphasize this. The world has really changed. In the old days, you'd live next to the person who died, you'd come into their house. Coming over to somebody's house when you're taking care of their affairs, when they've made a total mess of them, is no fun. Having their KeyPass database so you can go online and take care of their accounts is much better. And so I urge you to explore this. I'm always happy to talk about it. It's a favorite subject of mine. Yes.
I have a very competitive password generator.
Okay.
Yes.
Your head.
My
Yes.
passwords are uncrackable.
Yes, I bet they are. But I want to say that
They've written down.
yes. So
Every one of them.
the advantage to using a program like this is rather like your appointment book. It creates some structure. It creates a place to put stuff where it'll be easier for other people to understand what you're doing. And it makes the update process easier. If you know you're going to email once a month, you're going to email your KeyPass database to somebody, that's a lot better than having this Word document that's been sitting around all year, and you've made some changes, you can't remember if you added them. Like, there's a whole bunch of funny stuff that can go on.
I work with a lot of people who are on this issue. Another thing is a Word file is totally freeform. I've got clients who have, maybe the password is this, maybe the password is that in
Yes.
the Word file.
I've
But they're
seen
not
that a
sure
lot.
what the username is. Whereas the structure of a database like this, ideally, makes you, there's a title, there's a username, there's
Yes.
a password, there's notes.
And yet, it has a very powerful search facility. So if you put in some nice keywords in the title, you'll be able to bring up the password pretty instantly.
I'm pretty disciplined about it, about keeping things up to date
Okay,
and
so
organized. And plus I can put whatever notes I want.
You can do here, there's a note section. The only thing I'll add is that it's not safe to email that Word file.
That's true, it's open text.
So
Now,
sending it to somebody is not a
it's because this is
wise thing
encrypted.
to do.
one thing I do,
Okay, all right.
one thing I do with mine is a lot of times there'll be a customer service or customer support number tied to somehow to the account.
Yep.
I put that number in. I put security questions in.
So programs like KeyPass have a special place for this. And I'll add one more feature that I'm very fond of.
We need to leave. We need to leave.
Okay, let's wrap up. So thank you so much for coming.